Kaspersten said that Marek, the zombie puppet master, is the scariest guy he knows. If he thinks he can't do it, then it'll probably be really hard to get Klein a bodyguard. Klein then says, well, that freaking sucks, guess I'll die. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Art and Recap. I'm your artist Faye, and today we are reading chapter 229 till 233 of Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 229, Lesser of Two Evils. Okay, so Mersault, he is dead in Klein's living room because Klein him with a piece of paper, right? He died like a couple seconds ago, and because his muscles relaxed, he relieved his bowels. He shit himself and pissed himself, and I'm not just saying this just to be gross. It was actually legit in the text. Like, of course, Cuttlefish didn't say, oh, Mersault pissed himself and shit himself. He actually said, he used a specific word that means that he relieved his bowels because he's dead. Yeah, it's legit in the text. I'm not making this shit up. Anyway, Klein, I was thinking, when I read it, I was thinking, oh my god, Klein actually has to clean up this mess, doesn't he? And I'm like, that is really gross. And yeah, but then again, Klein already, saw more disgusting things. He actually saw the rotting corpse of Zriel. So maybe Klein doesn't really, he's like over all of this. He's used to it. Anyway, Klein picked up the Beyonder characteristic that Mersault left behind, and he wondered what the fuck he should be doing with it. Klein was thinking what he should be doing next. One thing that he thought of is that he should probably clean up the crime scene and deal with his wounds, and then make a report about this whole mess to the police and say that he did it because of self-defense, which is, what really happened, so he's just being honest. After all, the man did attack Klein unprovoked when he was just washing his hands after taking a shit or something, right? Which, by the way, this is very important, guys, everybody, make sure you always wash your hands after going to the bathroom, okay? Don't be nasty. Wash it with soap. Second option was to wait at night and throw the body in the sewer and pretend nothing ever happened, which will lead to Klein getting harassed in the future by Mersault's employer and lackeys, because the dude suddenly vanished after paying Klein a visit. Of course, they're going to suss him out, like, where is that guy? He's supposed to have killed you. Why is he the one that's dead? Klein Moretti, or Sherlock Moriarty, better yet. Third option was to give up his identity and flee to another borough. Honestly speaking, I think this option would have made the most sense to choose, but the issue is, Klein already paid for all of his apartments, and if he left, he'll just be bleeding a lot of his money. And Klein isn't exactly the wealthiest man right now. He will be bleeding a lot of money again, and I don't really think Klein will choose this. And there is a reason why that Klein will tell us later on. Klein's issue with the first option is that he's technically in Backland illegally. First and foremost, Klein Moretti, he's freaking dead. And secondly, Sherlock Moriarty, he does not exist. The police could suss him out, and in the end, he'd have to go with option 3 anyway, right? And the issue with the second option is that he'd be living with the thought that some rando will find the corpse and the police will come knocking on his door. This will lead to him going with option number 3 again. And again, he pissed off someone really, really powerful by killing Mersault. There's a chance that someone with a higher sequence will be sent to kill Klein instead. And the reason he's not going with option 3, even though it's the one that makes the most sense, is that he introduced himself to his landlady with no disguise, which is, the biggest error that he's ever done. And if he fled now, he'd run into the issue of his wanted poster being plastered all over the place, and he'd be recognized by the Nighthawk and Dali. Not to mention, Sangwil is still running around with sealed artifact 008. That guy will definitely hunt Klein down and finish the job he started. Or he'll start manipulating his surroundings again, which is kind of worse, to be honest. And yeah, Anyway, with all of these options at hand, Klein could only do one thing, and that's to divine his fate. His divination told him to do a police report, and he did just that. But first and foremost, he actually put on some black gloves and started going through Mersault's pockets to get some things out. He found a small stack of cash, cigarettes, and some other random little things. And of course, he found a dagger on him too. He took off his gloves and used the dagger to slice Mersault's throat again, right where he sliced it with that piece of paper earlier. Klein then gathered all of the mystical items he could find and put them in a paper bag before he summoned himself and took that bag with him into the Grey Fog world to hide from any Beyonder that might get involved later on. After Klein went back to the real world, he checked the time to make sure that he reported his act an hour after Musol's death so that a Beyonder won't find out much when they did a spirit channeling session. Once that's all ready, Klein found some random policemen that patrolled the neighborhood and put on a show of a panicked man that almost got himself killed. He ran to them yelling that someone tried to kill him. The police officer looked at Klein and he looked like hella harassed because he didn't clean up and asked where that happened. And Klein said that the criminal snuck into his house and tried to kill him and that he accidentally killed the man in self defense. The policemen looked at each other and ordered Klein to take them at the crime scene. Klein obliged and took them to his apartment. After a quick survey, the one of the police officers actually, because again there were two, they went to the police station to notify people while the other stayed behind to question Klein. The policeman asked for his name and his occupation, and Klein answered with, "Oh, I'm Sherlock Moriarty and I'm a private detective." Then the policeman asked if he knew the dead guy, and Klein said that he does know him and that he is part of the Sminger gang. He also told the policeman that the reason the guy attacked him was because he accepted a job from Ian Wright and that during the job he actually tailed Musso and found out that he was secretly meeting with a guy that he addressed as Mr. Ambassador. The policeman made a face because now politics might be involved, and he asked Klein if he knew his name, but Klein said, "Nah, but if you show me pics of this guy, I might actually be able to tell." So then Klein tells him that Mersault approached him that morning to get info about Ian, but Klein refused because of his client confidentiality policies, which he is low-key violating right now, by the way, by giving all of this info to the police. Anyway, once he got home that evening, he was ambushed by Marsault. He recounted the fight to the police, but of course hid some of the more magical aspects to it. Um, Afterwards, the police told him to follow him to the police station as they wait for the autopsy results of the on site investigation, aka, they probably sent over some Beyonders to check out what's going on over here. Before that, he asked Klein about his religion, and Klein said that he's a believer of the god of steam and machinery, since the region in Backland is the farthest away from Klein. So there is a higher chance, that they're actually not gonna get involved with this case. Chapter 230, Interrogation. We are now looking at the world in Sio Derecha's eyes. Sio and Force are actually at a gathering with Mr. A that Mr. A is hosting, and Sio saw the cost of the share formula on the whiteboard or blackboard that they put all the things that are on sale at, right? Remember that? She was hella relieved that she'll be able to afford it because she thought that maybe the prices will go higher, but nah, the reward that Audrey gave them was actually enough, more than enough actually, for her to buy the formula. But she actually thinks that she will definitely still need a huge amount of money for the main ingredient and deep into her savings. But then she thinks, hey, if worse comes to worse, I can actually change the Beyonder circles I'm at and sell the share formula there. Even though she actually didn't really want to do that because the pathway she's in right now belong to the royal family and also the military, so people keep a really close eye on it. And the only reason there's even formulas of it floating around was because there's like a lot of fallen nobles that were desperate for some cash. Because of all of this, users of this pathway are incredibly rare, but not as rare as Force because Force hasn't ever encountered any recipes for the apprentice all this time. Anyway, Sia wrote a note that she wants the formula and then gave it to one of the attendants. She was then led to a room where she was given a hooded robe to hide her identity as she faced the person selling the item. They exchanged the item and the money, and CEO looked at the ingredients that was listed on the note and was like, I know of these ingredients, I know of these items, but I've never seen them being sold. She returned to her seat next to Forrest and beckoned for another one of the attendants and said that she'd like to get an evil spirit exorcised for 30 pounds. A while later, the attendants took Forrest and Sio into a room where a man in a white mask waited for them. The man is a believer of the sun, which is kind of rare in Backland. They had a bit of a small talk before the guy started his exorcism. When that was happening, Klein felt the warmth of the sun on the back of his hand and was like, huh, that's nice, because right now he's actually at the police station waiting to be interrogated. He's hoping that the police won't pay too much attention to him and investigate who this Mr. Ambassador was, because that was the reason why he actually name dropped him in the first place, right? A policeman took Klein into an interrogation room where a man was waiting for him. As soon as he sat down, he felt a searing pain in his head, and he instantly knew that this was the result of a beyonder power. He suspects that the man in front of him was a sequence 7 of the arbiter pathway, kind of like the same pathway that CEO is on, right? And Klein was like, damn, they sent someone from the military to question me? Thank freaking God it's not someone from the Nighthawks. The man asked Klein if his previous statements were true, and Klein answered with honesty. He was then asked when the last time he met Ian Wright was, and Klein said that it was yesterday morning before he elaborated that he took Ian to identify the body of Detective Thrill, and once he did that, he advised Ian to actually call the police and report this, right? That was honestly all the man needed and told Klein that he may leave now. While Klein was walking outside, he was thanking the fact that his spirit is special, because whatever that guy was doing, it would have definitely driven him mad if he were a normal person. A policeman then told him to fill out some forms and that his lawyer, Lawyer Jurgen, can bail him out now. Chapter 231 Losses. Klein met the lawyer Jurgen Cooper, who told him the bill costed £10. We find out that Klein carries all of his cash with him and that he was grateful that he did, cause he didn't trust the police not to pocket any money in his apartment they found. Apparently, in the newspapers and magazines that he read, it was described that the police was basically corrupt. It's better to be safe than sorry after all, so Klein was very glad at that. Jurgen then told him that he can go and pick up his bail money in a week and maybe even get some compensation to boot. Klein nods his head and thanks him for the information and that he really needs all the money that he can get to buy the replacements for his destroyed furniture and dishes. He idly wonders how much more salts beyond their characteristics would sell for. Anyway, once Klein and the lawyer arrives at his place, Klein asks him how much he should pay him. The lawyer said that it's no problem, he's doing this pro bono. Klein thanks him and then asks if he can draw up a contract because he remembered that he had a deal with that inventor guy to make a bike and that he needed a lawyer anyway to make everything official, right? The lawyer said that he can and that Klein should drop by his place on Monday. Klein agrees and then he went back inside his apartment. He was in the middle of cleaning up the mess left behind when his doorbell rang. Apropos mess, I do wonder if the police actually cleaned up, Mersault's shit and piss that was left behind when he died. I'm just wondering, is that something that they will provide for him, or is Klein actually cleaning that mess himself? Just questions. Curiosity. Anyway, Julianne, Mrs. Summers' maid, told him that the lady wishes to discuss something with Klein. Klein was a little bit, anxious. He's wondering if he should be paying compensation to them because, again, those furniture that were destroyed technically still belong to Mr. Summers, right? So, Klein changed into a more appropriate attire and then he followed the maid to his neighbor's apartment. There, Klein had a small chat with the lady of the house until Luke Summers, her husband, came home. Klein apologized for what happened and said that he'll compensate them. The Summers said that he shouldn't worry about it. They're glad that he was able to fight back and that they feel much safer with him around. And Klein was like, bruh, I don't know about you feeling safe, but I almost got killed. They had a more casual chat in which Klein found out that the Summers could have lived in the suburbs in a house with a nice garden and lawn if it wasn't for Luke's job. And you know what? Luke is definitely the guy that Klein will sell the bicycle to, the first one, or maybe have him use it as a tester or give it to him for free so that he can market it to his fellow businessmen. Um, but yeah, I think Luke is the one that's going to be modeling in quotation mark for Klein in the future when it comes to the bicycle that that inventor guy is going to be making, right? Anyways, once Klein returned home, he actually thought of the next steps that he needs to do, and that is first to go to the bar Ian told him to go to if he wanted to get himself a gun, and the other is to hire himself a bodyguard because, again, he really pissed off someone super powerful by killing Massault, and hopefully that this bodyguard is a Beyonder. Then we switch POV to Shio after she got exorcised, and she thanks the mysterious man and was about to leave with force when one of the attendants stops her and hands her a note. And on that note, it says that the person who wrote it, um, she knew that she was an arbiter and that they hint at the fact that they have the ingredients that she'll need to progress. Chapter 232, The Braveheart's Bar. Shio was hella confused on how the person knew she purchased the sheriff recipe. She turns over to Force and asks if she should go, and Force tells her to meet the person cause as long as they're under the watchful gaze of Mr. A, that person definitely won't try anything stupid. So Shio follows the attendant and dons on another hood as she entered a room. She sits down and faces the mysterious man and asks if he has the ingredients for the formula and how the fuck he knew that she bought it. He said that he was actually the one who posted the recipe for it in the first place, and she asked him why he's doing what he's doing, and he says that he's searching for suitable helpers. He warns her not to sell the recipe for the potion or else she'll attract the attention of certain individuals, hence why he's offering to help her with the ingredients. He thinks that she's part of the aristocracy and hopes that he can have a connection with them through her. She's actually really glad that he didn't do much research on her cause she's not even in that circle in the first place. The guy just assumed that she was cause every arbiter tend to be part of the aristocracy one way or another. All he needs of her was to do some missions for him, and the missions she can reject them if she wanted to. She agrees since that truly is her best way to progress as a Beyonder. Now we switch POV again over to Klein, who just entered the Braveheart's bar. It low-key reminded him a little bit of that bar in Tingen, I forgot the name. I think it has something with the dragon. It was such a very, very complicated name for my brain to wrap itself around in for some reason. Anyway, there were two stages in the middle of the bar. One had a rat baiting competition with dogs, and the other was a stage for two boxers to beat each other up. Klein heads over to the bartender and orders a drink, which is, beer, the most famous beer in Lowen or whatever. And then he asks about a man named Kaspar Kalinin. The bartender looks at Klein for a moment before telling him that the man is in billiard room number 3. Klein gives a nod and heads over to that room where he said that he's looking for Casper's and that old geezer introduced him to him. A man in his 50s approached Klein and told him to follow him so that they can talk in a more private setting. The man then asked Klein what the fuck he wants. Klein said he wanted a gun with 50 rounds. Casper told him the price and Klein agreed to pay. It was a very easy transaction. Casper's left for a little bit to grab the gun and ammo, and once he gave it to Klein, Klein asked him another question. Where can I hire a bodyguard that exceeds human limitations? Kaspers is a shrewd man, so he figured out that Klein meant the Beyonder. He said that he can ask around, but he can't guarantee that someone will accept that job. Klein nods his head and waits for Kaspers to come back again. After a while, Kaspers approaches him and says that this one guy is interested and that he should go to a card room. Klein thanks him and heads off to a room with several players playing card. Klein thought that the vibe was hella weird and activated his spirit vision. There he saw that all the people except for one are surrounded by black auras, meaning that they're all dead except for that one random person. Klein was like, what the fuck? Are these people zombies? Is that guy controlling them? Chapter 233. A man cannot be judged by his looks. Klein tried not to get the weirdness of 10 zombies playing cards with a single person get to him. He also tried his best to act like he didn't know those 10 people are as dead as Captain Toons since he's not supposed to be a Beyonder. The man asked if he's the one looking for a bodyguard, and Klein said, "Yeah, I am." The man asked why he's looking for a bodyguard in the first place and how much he's willing to pay. Klein said that he'll tell him the mission first and that if the man can assess the danger level and give him a price. The guy nodded and Klein looked at the zombies and asked if he can kick them out of the room. The guy said, "Nah, bro, you can't kick my homies out. They're chill, like the dead." So Klein was like, "Alright, well, the reason I need a bodyguard is cause I offended a big shot, like, so big they have a country supporting them." And the man looks at him and was like, "Nah, bro, I'm not involving myself in politics. Get the fuck out of my zombie infested card room." Klein goes over to Kaspers, who was waiting outside, and he said that he didn't come to an agreement with the guy. Kaspers guesses that the price might be too high. Klein said, "Nah, the dude thinks it's too difficult." Kaspers then said that Marek, the zombie puppet master, is the scariest guy he knows. If he thinks he can't do it, then it'll probably be really hard to get Klein a bodyguard. Klein then says, "Well, that freaking sucks, guess I'll die." Klein went home, washed up, and then got ready for bed. But before he went to sleep, he actually pondered over what to do next. He wrote down Ian Wright's whereabouts on a piece of paper and threw a coin in a subtle manner where he asked if there were any Beyonders watching him. Once he received a negative answer, he did a dream divination where he saw Ian's whereabouts, and he figured out that from the furniture surrounding Ian that he's somewhere in the East Borough and the Backland East area, somewhere over there. But once he was done with that, he woke up and added on the note that he wrote to divine Ian's whereabouts that "I don't know Ian Wright's whereabouts. I haven't seen him since we found Sriel's body." Then he went to bed and entered the Grey Fog world. There he saw that the crimson star that represented Sio was dyed gold cause she did that exorcism thingy. Klein touched it and saw that the scene of her getting an exorcism, and he almost laughed. The scene actually went beyond that, like it was a far longer notification than he's used to, and he actually saw Sio talking to Force, and that Sio is actually looking for the Beyonder potion corresponding to the sheriffs. And the scene cut off once the two are on their way home. This disappointed Klein because he wanted to know their addresses, which, by the way, sounds hella creepy. Klein, what the fuck is that? And with that out of the way, he decided to divine Ian Wright's exact location in the Grey Fog world. Chapter 234, The Night of the Full Moon. Klein saw more info about Ian because again, he was divining where he was, right? At first he saw that Ian was in the location that he previously divined, and then he saw the second scene where he was in the sewers in front of Zriel's corpse. He squatted in front of Zriel's body and reached out to remove two of his teeth, which was hella freaking weird. Like, why would he do that? Is Ian a Beyonder and he needed to do that for a ritual? Like, is this like some sort of loot or I don't know what for Zriel's body? Or maybe Zriel is actually a Beyonder. But Klein would definitely have known that Zriel is a Beyonder, right? He would have had a feeling about it. His seer senses would tingle and tell him, "Hey, you should probably inspect this guy's body or whatever." But then again, there was also something weird that happened with Zriel's body that Klein thought was odd. Namely, that it seemed like he started missing more body parts since the first time he found the body. Anyways, the third scene was on a busy and noisy street, and he saw Ian enter a telegraph office. Once Klein woke up from his divination, he thinks that Zriel and Ian aren't just normal detectives. Like, they're not a normal detective duo like Sherlock Holmes and Watson. Yeah, I was about to say Moriarty, but then I was like, wait, isn't Moriarty like Sherlock's nemesis? Anyway, Klein thinks that there's definitely something weird going on over here and that Ian and Zriel probably has some sort of organization behind them. Klein also thinks that he should probably figure out where the telegraph office was, but he didn't want to stay in the Grey Fog for too long. Instead, he rummaged at the back of his chair until he found Mersault's loot drop, like his Beyonder characteristics, right, that he put away. And then he divined the corresponding potion name of this loot drop. He saw a scene of a man giving Mersault the potion and said that it's the hunter potion. It should give Mersault enough power to take over the Sminger gang. Klein figured out that it's the reason Mersault wanted to kill him with poison darts at the beginning, but that Mersault was still a newbie and didn't really know that acting method because he didn't act very hunter-like. He didn't even set up traps, right? Though, in Mersault's defense, he didn't really know that Klein was a Beyonder, right? So Klein actually had to concede that it's probably because Mersault underestimated him, because again, he didn't know that Klein was a Beyonder who is also a sequence higher than him. We find out that the Hunter pathway was wielded by both the former Intis royal family, the Sauron family, Lord of the Rings, and the Einhorn family. You guys know Einhorn is German and it actually means unicorn. Like, is that some sort of hint for something? Because I don't know, the Sauron family. Why actually the Sauron family, right? Why Sauron? I'm pretty sure Cuttlefish knows that a lot of Lord of the Rings fans will be like, why Sauron? Anyway, so some random secret organization called the Iron Cross and wait, no, not the Iron Cross, the Iron and Blood Cross Order also used to have this hunter pathway. Taking all of this information into account, Klein figured out that the ambassador was a diplomat of Intis. Anyway, he rummaged through a map and tried to figure out where Ion was, and once he got it, he added to the note that he wrote earlier that he might not know where Ion was exactly, but he learned through his own channels that he's appeared at the telegraph office on Bacardi Street. Once he finished writing that, he put it on his desk and went to sleep. In a different house, Force sat up suddenly and put her hands up to her head. She's not sleeping with Theo right now, by the way. The text actually said so. Force was resisting some weird mutterings she's hearing because it's the full moon right now. She tried her best to keep quiet to the point that she started pulling out her own hair. And you know what, girly pop? I also know of a pretty girl who started pulling out her hair. It didn't end well for her. Force wonders if she's gonna die because these murmurs are driving her mad and is a little annoyed that she couldn't even figure out what the fuck they're saying. She's like, if I gotta die, then at least let me die with knowledge, or something along those lines. She also wonders if her symptoms would lessen if she got a higher sequence. But the issue is that she's never seen anyone selling the Trickmaster potion formula. Anyway, it's the next day now, and Klein woke up bright and early and went to draw the curtains and go about to do his business. He passed by the paper on his desk and paused because it was facing the window when Klein clearly remembered that it was facing the chair and the bed. Klein narrows his eyes and rushes to his windows to see that it was shut tight and, nobody snuck in. There was no way a breeze would have flipped that paper around. Now, someone actually came inside his home without him noticing, and that low-key freaked him out. He wonders if it was someone from the military or a Beyonder sent by the ambassador to kill him. Klein thinks that it's probably the ambassador's lackey and that he was given a warning as a small thanks for the information that he left behind on that piece of paper. Either way, Klein was grateful that he has more time to plan something. Klein, of course, divined if someone snuck into his room last night, but the coin told him that no one did. Thanks to this, he actually knows that there's an interference going on and that he's facing a higher sequence Beyonder, or the person who snuck in was not human. Chapter 235, Busy Monday. Klein was in no hurry to confirm his assumptions and went about his day pretending that nothing odd happened. He left a note on his desk so that the military who will be rummaging around his home while he's away, that they can find it and they can focus all of their manpower to Iron Right instead of him. Klein went over to his neighbor and rang their doorbell, and he was greeted by Brody the cat. Doris, the owner of the cat and Klein's first client actually as a detective, welcomed him inside her home. it turns out that this house was where Jurgen the lawyer lived, and he's actually her grandson. You know, the funny thing is, I remember the freaking cat being named Brody, but Jurgen, I could not remember who the fuck he was at all until now. I thought he was just some random lawyer that Klein met at that police station. Anyway, Jurgen tells Klein that the contract he wanted was complete and that he should check it out. He said that there are two extra copies and that he should shred the remaining contracts when everything was over. Doris then ushered them for breakfast, and Klein was absolutely delighted at the bean turnip soup that the old lady made, even though at first when he heard about it he was a little bit skeptical. This is why you never doubt a granny's cooking skills, even if the food sounds questionable. Only start to doubt your grannies once your grannies are actually millennials. Once we, because I am also a millennial, are in our grandmother age. Because I know a lot of us don't really know how to cook. What we'll do for you guys probably once we're grandmothers is make bulldog ramen with a lot of cheese. Probably. After breakfast, he went over to pay Lepard the first 50 pounds of his investments and to formalize their contract. Also, by the way, Lepard again is the bicycle inventor that he wanted to, invest in. Just a small reminder in case you forgot, because I did. Then he went to the public library to research about the ambassador. At around noon, he found a photo of the ambassador who he recognized from his dream divination, and the man's name is actually Bakerland Jean Madan. Bakerland Jean Madan. How do you pronounce this? Is this another French sounding name? But Bakerland sounds very very English. Bakerland Jean Madan. Buckland. What? At around 3 o'clock, Klein went to his apartment and pretended to take a nap when in reality he was at the Grey Fog World. He actually found out through divination that the military relaxed their surveillance on him and then found out what the fuck infiltrated his place last night. It was actually a black shadowy thing squirming through the bottom of his door. He described it as something like a threadworm that was slowly approaching his sleeping form that only stopped once it discovered the note on his desk. And he figured out that the person manipulating the threadworm thing was definitely sent over by that guy Bakerland, the ambassador. Anyway, Klein started pulling in the Tarot Club members because again it is a Monday after all. Monday. What was that? Audrey cheerfully greets each and every member, and Klein welcomes her by calling her Miss Telepathist because he noticed her advancement through his spirit vision. Audrey thanks him before turning her attention to Alger, who owes Klein 6 pages of Roselle's diary. She's really hoping that Klein will share more general knowledge with them today. Before Alger handed over the pages, he said that he found information regarding the secret order, and Klein nods his head and said, "Very good." Alger says that the secret order has some connections to the Intis Republic, and Klein already knew that because of Roselle's diary entries. Klein was actually thankful that Alger mentioned this first because he needed to deal with the ambassador. Because, the ambassador is from the Intis Republic, so it's gonna be an easier segue for him to mention about this Bakerland guy, and what he wants them to do about him. Something, something. And that was Lord of the Mysteries chapters 229 till 233. What do you guys think of all of these chapters? Also, as you guys can tell, I am actually not that art blocked anymore. I forced myself to make this cover for my webcomic because it is launching on Friday, the 15th. Yeah, so please look out for that, and I hope that you guys enjoyed me drawing this artwork. Yeah, next week I will try my best to also work on some artworks. I do have some footage of, it's not an illustration, but like this short comics that I do for social media. I do have some content for that, so I can use that next time too. I just feel like it's not very visually interesting to look at compared to drawing a full illustration. But yeah. Anyway, um Tell me what you guys think about this episode. As again, I'm just super excited. Oh yeah, we actually did a lot of episodes, like we actually did a lot of chapters this in this video, not episodes. Yeah, so that was surprising, right? Because I was thinking when I was recording this, the five chapters only lasted about 20 something minutes. I'm like, that is very short. Let's actually add two more chapters. So why the hell not? Let's go. So yeah. Anyways, I should definitely leave now. Before I go, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps my channel out a lot. My commissions are open and my vision link is down in the description below. Check out my story, Dreaming of Aurora, if you have the time. And finally, thanks to my patrons, Robek, Banark, and Jay Voljevolitska for the support. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!